or fiction? Where do you draw the line between them?
Beyond belief. Fact or fiction. Hosted by Jonathan Frakes. We live in a world where the real and the unreal live side by side, where substance is disguised as illusion, and the only explanations are unexplainable. Can you separate truth from fantasy? To do so, you must break through the web of your experience and open your mind to things beyond belief.
To a museum, a true archaeological find is like winning the lottery. It boosts your ranking to the top of the world's collections and attracts visitors to your facility from all over the world. That's why every great discovery must be painstakingly authenticated. And when an exhibit like this passes the strongest tests of experts, it's both an historical and financially rewarding experience. It can also be a frightening one, as we are about to find out.
As the head curator for the museum, I was asked to accompany our director to the private studio of Marcel Ducroix. Ducroix had an esteemed reputation as a collector of rare and valuable discoveries. But if his claim was correct this time, we would be looking at his greatest discovery of all. This, of course, did not stop Emile, our director, from being his brusque, rude self.
The appointment was for 3 o'clock, Monsieur Ducroix.
I'm sorry to have kept you waiting, gentlemen. I was asleep. I haven't been feeling well lately. But there she is. The Princess Ferentiti. Untouched since she was wrapped 300 years before Christ.
Monsieur, when you have been doing this work for as long as I have, you learn to contain your emotions when confronted by something momentous. Yet my heart was racing with anticipation. This was the prize that had eluded discovery for over 2 centuries. I spent the next several hours checking and rechecking the elaborate mummy case, the wrappings, and the paperwork. And finally, I knew Emile would ask me the most important question of all, and I would have to commit.
Well, Daniel, what do you think?
It's authentic. Of course it's authentic.
If I may ask, how did this priceless relic come into your possession?
I am unable to divulge that. You must trust that it is mine to do as I wish. You can see that the paperwork is in order.
It would be a great addition to the museum's collection of Egyptian artifacts.
Well, Monsieur Ducroix, it would appear you're going to be a very wealthy man.
How can one put a price on the head of Princess Ferentiti?
There were still final checks to be done, and we had to wait for the availability of embalming experts. In the meantime, the museum took possession of the princess. And then one evening, according to the cleaning lady who was working a nightly shift, something very strange occurred.
Excuse me, Oh, my God. Sir, I swear I'm telling you the truth. I don't imagine things. I saw this woman, this beautiful woman, and she was floating off the floor. Sir, it was the strangest thing I ever saw.
Mandy, I appreciate your sincerity and concern, but this story is completely ridiculous.
Sir, I swear on my children, I saw that woman.
Calm down. Sometimes the dim lighting in the museum...
No, sir. I saw what I saw, and I know I saw her. And if you don't believe me, then I'm not working here anymore. You understand? I quit.
I'm just saying it's very coincidental that Mandy and the security guard both had the same vision.
Please, Daniel, it's nothing. Most likely the power of suggestion. Mandy probably planted it in that guard's head. She talked about what she saw, and now he saw it. That's how these rumors get started.
Yes, Mandy, I could understand. But the security guard, he has been with the museum for 15 years. He is very reliable.
So, you're saying you believe in this talk of a ghost?
I'm not saying that at all, Emile. I'm just saying it's a little odd, that's all.
Yes, it's odd. They're probably watching too much television and reading too many tabloids. If you'll excuse me, Daniel, I have a dinner engagement.
So typical. The director goes to dinner while the curator is left behind to work late into the night. I sat there, poring over my notes. suddenly I felt a cold chill go through me. I was relieved to see it was nothing but the fire going out. But then, I couldn't believe my eyes. Who are you? What do you want of me? There was a deep gash on her forehead. What happened to you? She seemed to be beckoning me to follow her. I approached the coffin of the princess carefully, but I could not be prepared for what I was about to see. There in the coffin was the woman whose ghost was haunting the museum.
It cannot be.
I contacted the police that same evening. Within a week, they arrested Marcel Ducroix for the murder of a beautiful young woman he had met in a local cafe. He had hit her over the head with a blunt object, causing a gash on her forehead. He then wrapped her body and placed it in the coffin. Under interrogation, Ducroix answered every question except one. Where was the real body of Princess Ferentiti? That still remains a mystery.
Was it really the spirit of the murdered woman who was haunting the museum at night? Or simply the imaginations of an overstressed staff? The exhibit turned out to be an elaborate hoax, designed to hide a horrible crime. And didn't the physical description of the ghost match the woman in the coffin? Did this story of the mummy really happen? Or are we keeping the truth under wraps?
Next, a security guard is forced to look terror in the face on beyond belief, fact, or fiction.
It takes a lot to get into an office building these days. ID cards, security passes, code boxes, special keys. But the most reliable security device of all is a dedicated human being. Someone like Vic Purnell. He had a perfect record at Dexter Industries. No incident had ever occurred on his watch. And when Vic wasn't actually involved in a security check, he was reading about things that would make him a more effective person and employee. Yes, Vic Purnell takes pride in his work. But what is that old saying? Oh yes, pride goeth before a fall. It's late Tuesday afternoon, and Vic Purnell is training a new security guard.
Sometimes it's not enough just to check the doorknob. You gotta throw your whole weight against the door, make sure it's secure. Like this. You understand? Yeah, there's no shortcuts in the security business, Wes.
There's so much I can learn from a man like you, Mr. Purnell.
Like your attitude, Wes. You're gonna do real well around here. New company, healthcare benefits, lots of room for advancement. Even though we're still under construction, that vault there is fully operational. It contains computer secrets that are worth a lot of money on the open market.
Looks real secure to me.
Yeah, well, we've got 3 cameras, state-of-the-art laser alarm system. Here's the control box. This key disarms the alarm if the system should misfire. Not that that is ever gonna happen. I designed the system myself.
Really? You must be some kind of genius.
No, that's not that. I just know a few things. It's amazing what you can find in books.
I don't believe it. You've really got a perfect record?
15 years in the business. Not a single break-in or act of vandalism.
Wow, that's something to shoot for.
You can do it, kid.
Later that night, Vic Purnell ran his last monitor check and was ready for a cup of coffee and his latest book.
My kid's a little green, but I think he'll work out okay.
Southwest quadrant doors are secure, sir.
Good job. Did you use your shoulders?
Don't move or I'll blow your brains out.
I guess I didn't use my shoulder, Vic. Perfect record. Whew, bye-bye. Thanks for the keys, Vic. You're very helpful in disabling the alarm.
All set.
Hey, Vic! What's behind door number 1? Yeah, this stuff's gonna bring us a ton of cash. In a few days, we're sitting on a beach in the Bahamas. Put your face, man. Hey, Vic, look at it this way. Records are made to be broken. I just broke yours. Good security guard never would have hired me. Maybe you're just getting old, lazy, fat.
Vic Purnell, a security guard whose hobby was reading, was watching his final chapter play out. Bound and gagged, he couldn't move out of his chair to protect his watch. But then...
What happened? What happened? Just a bulb blew, man. It's no big deal. Come on. I like this. Get out of here. Come on, this way. What is it? Hey, I got cut, man.
You know, if it weren't for the lights in the building going on and off, we would have just passed right by. There's been a power surge, or maybe they just short-circuited something when they disabled the alarm.
Yeah, maybe it was something. Whatever it was. My record is still perfect.
What really happened here? Was there some sort of electrical short behind those exploding lights? Perhaps the crooks caused a short when they tampered with the security system. Then the building had never experienced any sort of wiring problems in the past. Is it logical to assume such a coincidence could happen at the exact same time Vic was experimenting with telekinesis? Do you believe this story of top security? Or are we trying to sneak one past you?
We'll find out whether this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, a student spends a night of horror in a cemetery on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
How much money would it take to make you spend a night in a cemetery? $50? $100? It's a lot of money to some people. For example, a struggling high school student. But what is it about a graveyard that makes most of us hesitate at the offer? Do we actually believe that there are spirits and ghosts that haunt a burial ground? Melissa doesn't believe in ghosts or spirits. She believes in picking up some easy money. And she is about to earn every penny.
Justin, would you turn it down? I told you I hate this song.
What'd you do that for?
It's a stupid song.
You're just pissed because Glenn stood you up again.
He didn't stand me up. He's got the flu. I just wish he'd quit getting sick on Friday nights.
Whatever.
I hate this town. It's so boring. There's never anything to do. Cemetery! I can't believe you guys. You're so superstitious.
You guys know who's buried in that cemetery, don't you?
Yeah, dead people. Lots of them.
Well, one of those dead people just happens to be Wilbur Lister.
Who's he?
He was a serial killer. Murdered 22 teenage girls and buried them under his house. And he was caught, executed, and buried in that cemetery right there. Row 8, grave number 14. So the story goes.
I know the story.
Oh, what? And you don't believe it?
No, I don't believe it. It's just some stupid, scary story made up by a stupid, scary-looking person like you.
Okay. I'll give you $100 if you go sit out there on Lister's grave for 2 hours. Huh? How about it, Melissa? You got the guts or are you chicken?
I wouldn't do it for 1,000.
You're on, but you better have $100.
All right. We shall see. Okay. Here's what you gotta do. After the 2 hours are up, you take the knife and you stab it into Lister's grave. That's how we'll know you were there.
And take your phone and keep in touch, okay?
Stop worrying, Crystal. There's nothing in there but bones.
I'm Wilbur Lister and I'm hungry for blood.
Shut up.
Bye.
Okay, Wilbur. They say your grave is towards the big oak tree. Should be easy to find since those kids carved that skull on your headstone. I'm not afraid of your curse, Wilbur. I'm gonna leave here tonight $100 richer. Tell Dustin that I'm still alive and they're still dead.
I'm Lister and I want you.
So lame. She hung up. You made her hang up. I hate you.
Come here. Come here. Come here.
Oh, that's cute. Serial killer they put to death on Valentine's Day. Are you in there, Wilbur? Because I'm going to be spending a couple hours here with you, whether you like it or not. Well, Wilbur, looks like our date's almost over. Another 15 minutes and I'll be $100 richer.
You're never going to leave here.
Real cute, Dustin. All right, where are you?
Nobody leaves here unless I let them.
It's not gonna work. You're not gonna scare me out of that $100, so you may as well come out now.
Did you have phone ring?
No.
Let's put the radio.
Come here.
I want the answer.
No more calls, Alyssa. More anything.
No marks on her. Looks like she died of fright. Why didn't she run away?
She couldn't. That knife is stuck right through her coat. She pinned herself to the grave.
Poor Melissa. Was it the ghosts of the graveyard that did her in? Or did she scare herself to death by unknowingly plunging the knife into the hem of her coat, trapping her in place and causing her imagination to take over in the dark? Do you think this story of terror in the cemetery is real? Or do you have grave doubts?
We'll find out whether this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, eyewitnesses claim to see a giant commit murder on Beyond Belief, fact or fiction.
Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen? I stand 6'4". This life-size cutout of Harlem globetrotter Pascal Frenchy Fleury is 7'3". The Guinness Book of World Records lists Robert Pershing Wadlow as the world's tallest man at 8'11 1/10 inch. Yet when you read the writings of history, you can't help wonder if some men were even taller. How tall was Goliath, Paul Bunyan? And how about all those giants that populate ancient fairy tales? In this story, there may be a man that doubles the size of the tallest man in the world. That is, if you can believe the eyewitnesses.
When you're a cop, you have to investigate everyone's murder. Even if the murder victim is a man you may personally despise. The morning I was called to this particular crime scene, I didn't know who the dead man was yet. I was just given an address. But I was about to be reminded that the victim was a creep, a liar, and a wife beater. And in my opinion, he also murdered his wife Marie a couple of years ago. He got off due to an expensive legal team, a weak judge, and an incompetent prosecutor. He liked to brag about how he was found not guilty. But 8 o'clock this morning, he was found dead. What do we got?
Victim is a white male, about 35 years old. No sign of forced entry or robbery. The weird thing is, though, the apartment was deadbolted from the inside.
Maybe the victim deadbolted it after the killer left, just to be safe.
Sir?
It was a bad joke, Marquez. Where did he die?
Balcony, sir.
All right, Mac, let me have it, all right? You got a cause of death, Felix?
Yeah, somebody broke his neck. I'd say the time of death was around 6 a.m.
Whoever did it had to be a very powerful man. Got an ID on the deceased?
George Delarose. He owned a couple of restaurants out in the valley.
George Delarose. That's the guy who was tried for murdering his wife about a year ago.
I remember. He beat that.
Yeah. Best defense money could buy. Accused of spousal abuse, and his wife turns up brutally murdered. And the husband just happens to have a perfect alibi.
When have we heard that before?
So he's sitting here, enjoying his morning coffee and his newspaper. Somebody grabs him from behind. No forced entry. So that means somebody climbed 2 stories, broke this guy's neck, and then climbed back down again. You got any witnesses?
3 of them, and you wouldn't believe what they had to say.
I was getting ready for work this morning. It was about 6 a.m. when I heard this terrible noise. It sounded like a man screaming. I looked out my window, and I'll never forget what I saw. It was a giant man, as tall as the balcony, and he had on a dark overcoat and this long, flowing black hair. And he was shaking something on the balcony like a rag doll. And then I realized what it was. It was a man. It was so terrible. I've never seen anyone murdered before.
Mrs. Denby, the murderer you saw, if he was as tall as the balcony, do you realize he'd be 18 feet tall?
Oh, I know it sounds crazy, but that's what I saw.
All right, look. Detective Marquez will take you down and get you a cup of tea. I'll talk to you in a little bit, all right? I interrogated 2 other eyewitnesses. All 3 accounts were identical. A giant man, about 18 feet tall, dressed in dark clothing with long, unruly hair, was seen standing in front of a balcony just before sunup, about 6 a.m. All right, I'll tell you what. Why don't you guys go over there and talk to Detective Downey over there? His name's Don Gonzalez. It's okay. An 18-foot killer on the loose. Pretty weird, huh, Felix?
Want to hear something weirder? Whoever made this print weighed at least 500 pounds.
Pretty big guy. I struggled with the case for several days. The witnesses all checked out. But a giant 18-foot murderer, how can that be possible? And where did he go? 18-foot men don't just disappear into thin air. I decided to check out George Delarouse's apartment again. I took my time, and I tried to imagine what happened that morning. This was the strangest case I ever had. The death of George Delarouse didn't bother me that much. As far as I was concerned, Delarouse got away with murdering his wife. My job was to see nobody got away with murdering him. There were a lot of people who hated George, especially after he got off at the trial. I remembered that Marie actually lived in this apartment with him for a brief time. I recalled from the newspaper articles that she had a colorful history. In fact, she and George first met when she was a performer in Las Vegas. Obviously a memoir Marie had left behind. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I began to flip through the album. It was filled with old newspaper clippings and photos. One of the photos was of Marie Garibaldi and her brothers, the Flying Garibaldis, a well-known circus act from Milan, Italy. With each flip of the page, I learned more about Marie and her 3 brothers. They were a family of acrobats who traveled extensively throughout Europe. Marie Garibaldi left the act because she fell in love and married George Delarousse. Reports of the abuse she suffered at his hands filtered back to her brothers through letters she wrote. She continued to write to them up until the time of her tragic murder. The blank pages that followed were her obituary. I felt sorry for this woman, trapped away from her homeland in an abusive marriage. But what did it all have to do with the murder of George Delarousse? And how did it add up to an 18-foot giant at George's balcony? Obviously, she knew lots of circus performers. Did one of them kill George? The answer was in the poster on the wall. Marie's 3 brothers, balanced one on top of the other, measured close to 18 feet. The brother at the top was certainly strong enough to strangle a man while standing on the shoulders of his brothers. I could have filed extradition papers to call the Garibaldi brothers back from Milan. But like I said, I didn't care much for George Delarousse, and Italy is out of my jurisdiction.
Is this story possible? Did 3 acrobats really choose to avenge their sister's death using the skills they had perfected over the years? If that explanation seems far-fetched to you, then how do you explain the witnesses who claimed to see a giant? Were they experiencing mass hallucination? Is this story of familial revenge a true one? Or is it just another one of our tall tales?
We'll find out if this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, a river holds the secret of a mysterious stranger on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car? You could literally wander for hours trying to find it, or you could wait till dark when your car will probably be the only one left in the lot. Now here's a modern solution. By pushing the button on this remote key, you can send a signal to your car. But what happens when your car is nowhere to be found? When it's been towed away, then what do you do? The story of the man in the designer suit is a famous one in Beauville County. And it all started in the waters of the Beauville River.
They towed my car. They towed my car.
His ripped clothing caked with Spanish moss and bayou mud, this man, Edward Decatur, was the kind of sight never seen before by the citizens of Beauville.
Dang fool. My car. They towed my car.
Yeah. Check this boy out.
Beauville County. Population 304. +1.
They towed my car.
He looks to be having himself a real bad day.
He's from the city, I can tell you that.
Now, how can you tell? What makes you such an authority?
We'll see his suit. It may look tore up, but it don't come cheap.
Uh-oh. He's coming our way.
They towed my car.
And you won't need us. We're retired.
They towed my car.
Well, that's a doggone shame, son, but we can't help you. Like my friend says, we're retired. Now go on, just move on along. We don't want no trouble. Do we, Daryl?
Huh? No, we don't.
I have to find my car.
Boy, looks like he's been attacked by a pack of dogs.
They still talk about the man in the fancy suit who wandered through town looking for his car, talking to himself, and looking like he had just seen something terrible. And when they tell the story, they always point out that nobody in Beauville took the time to show him any kindness. Nobody, except little Reese.
Hey, mister, are you crying?
They towed my car.
Well, you ain't gotta cry about it. I'll help you find it.
They towed my car.
I heard you. What happened to you? Why are you so dirty and beat up?
I gotta get something out of the trunk.
You sure are strange. Come on, I'll take you to Wally. He does all the towing around here. I'll take you there. Come on. Ma says I'm real nosy. What's your name? My name's Reese, and I'm 11.
I'm Edward. And they towed my car.
That must be some kind of car.
People say that Reese was taking a dangerous chance that day in befriending the stranger. But Reese wasn't afraid, and the stranger was gentle with him. Reese knew that if anybody had towed the man's car, Wally would be the one who would know.
Hey, Wally, my friend needs to talk to you about his car.
Man, what the hell happened to you, mister?
Somebody towed my car.
Come over here for a minute, son. Son, I want to talk to you for a minute. Son, what are you doing with that awful-looking man?
That's my friend, and I wanted to help him find his car. Did you tow it?
Well, I pulled a car out the river earlier today. A lot of water damage.
Water damage? Hey, where'd my friend go? Hey, Edward, is that your car?
It was towed. I found it.
Well, you know there's towing charges. I had to pull it out the river. Broke 2 chains doing it.
I have to get something out of the trunk.
Well, you got a key?
I have to get something out of the trunk.
Well, that means I'm gonna have to put the crowbar to it. That means busting the lock. Is that all right with you?
I have to get something
I know
out of
you
the
got
trunk.
to get something out the trunk, yeah. Step back. It's gonna get a little wet around here.
Wow, it's like a dam burst.
It was what Wally saw next that has made this story live forever in Beauvais.
Stay back, son. Stay back.
What's wrong, Wally? Where's my friend?
Wally thought about just walking Reese away, but he had to have another witness. Thus ends the saga of the wandering spirit in the designer suit. Is there a logical explanation for this story? Was it somebody else in the trunk? Someone who looked like Edward? An identical twin, perhaps? But then, where did Edward disappear to? Did the young boy imagine the whole thing? And how did Edward end up in the trunk of his car anyway? Maybe the answer lies in the gambling debts he had built up with organized crime. Whatever the explanation, is this story of a stranger in a car pulled out of the water inspired by an actual incident, or are we pulling your chain?
Coming up, we'll find out which of our stories tonight were fact and which were fiction when Beyond Belief returns.
Now, let's take a look at tonight's stories and see which ones were inspired by actual events and which were total works of fiction. The story of the mummy that turned out to be a cover-up for a murder. Did you think that was true or false? If you guessed this story had the ring of truth, you're right. A story similar to this one did take place. Let's review the story of the security guard who used his mind to protect his building. Truth or falsehood?
Even though we're still under construction, that vault there is fully operational. It contains computer secrets that are worth a lot of money on the open market.
I like this chat here. Come on, this way.
Did you think this story was a figment of a writer's imagination? Not this time. It happened. According to first-hand interviews conducted by author Robert Trailins. Our story of the girl who had the courage to spend the night on a killer's grave. Is this one true?
It's not gonna work. You're not gonna scare me out of that $100, so you may as well come out now. Where's Dustin?
He's right here next to me. I swear.
Oh!
Stop. See, I told you he was here.
Tell him I'm leaving, because my 2 hours are up.
She's leaving.
Hey, tell her not to forget to stab the knife in the grave so we know you were there.
Did you guess that a girl did die this way? If you did, you're wrong. This one's an urban legend. It's fiction. And how about the story of the giant that turned out to be a human tower formed by 3 acrobats? Real or unreal?
An 18-foot killer on the loose. Pretty weird, huh, Felix?
Want to hear something weirder? Whoever made this print weighed at least 500 pounds.
So he's sitting here, enjoying his morning coffee and his newspaper. Somebody grabs him from behind. No forced entry. So that means somebody climbed 2 stories, broke this guy's neck, and then climbed back down again.
Was this story of a revenge taken by 3 brothers inspired by an actual event? Yes. Let's take another look at the tale of the man whose car was towed, only to be recovered with him in sight.
Step back. It's gonna get a little wet around here.
Wow, it's like a dam burst.
Stay back, sir. Stay back.
What's wrong, Wally? Where's my friend?
Did you think this one was a work of fiction? You're right again. We made up this one. Once again, we've challenged you to separate fact from fantasy. Were you successful tonight? Or did you find our explanations to be ultimately beyond belief? I'm Jonathan Frakes.
Join us for more stories on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.